Cool. So let's go ahead and start, right? Everybody good?
Yes.
Cool. You guys might need to help me out. I always forget things, as you guys know. So feel free to chime in whenever you see me doing something crazy. So let's just start and kind of talk about what we're going to try to do. So I'm going to go to the Learn platform, open that on up, and take a look at what our end goal is. All right, Pilot MVC. Oops, no, APIs and AJAX. And our end goal is to basically make this cool little thing that does a whole bunch of different things. So let me expand that. All it has is a notes, a bunch of different notes with a title and a description. We can delete those notes. We can add new notes. And we can edit notes by typing in these different text areas. Cool. Sound good? So basically we can do all the create, retrieve, update, destroy sort of methods. So that's going to be our goal. So let's just start off and make some routes to do that. So I made a few of them already. I made get notes, which is basically going to do and run this welcome notes index method. I made a post notes, which is going to be a welcome create. And I made a get method of notes/new, which is going to run this welcome/new method. Let's make a couple more. Routes. Let's do another post type. Let's go to notes/delete/int. And that's going to go to welcome/delete. And what other things do we need? So we need to be able to update, right? So let's do another post, bracket/notes/update/int. Yeah, so I'm forcing it to be an int. We think we could have just left it as ID, but again, this might be something I screwed up. So, but let's just do it that way. Yep. This force typecasting. At least it works in Flask. It should work in Pilot just fine. Awesome. All right. So we've got those different methods. I think those are the only ones that we're going to need. So let me just tell you what they're going to be doing before we go and actually build them. So notes index. What notes index is going to do is it's going to build that box of notes that have a list of all the notes and titles. So it's going to be title, description, title, description, title, description for however many notes we have. This create method is basically going to go and add a new note to our database. And then it's going to reload our notes index. Our notes new. New, even though it looks like it should be creating something, actually what it's going to be doing is it is going to be loading a view to create a new note. Deleting a note, it's going to delete a note and then update the index. And update is going to just update a note on a keystroke. Cool. On a keystroke.
Enter or whatever we
Yeah.
want to make it.
Is what I'm going to target. We'll see. We may not pull that one off. All right, but that's going to be their general plan. So the big ones I think that are interesting are this is going to load a partial view. This notes index is going to basically go to the database, get all of our notes, and load it into a partial view. Our welcome new is also going to be a partial view. That's just going to be that form that I kind of showed you already. Create goes to the database and then reloads the view. Again, delete and update will also go to the database. And update is actually not going to reload the view. And the reason for that is because we're doing it on a keystroke, if you reload a view on a keystroke, it's really, really annoying. But you've already added the key locally, so your database will actually pick that up already. So it's just basically saving whatever you typed in to the database at the time. So you don't actually have to load a new event from that. That make sense? All right, cool. So now that we have kind of a plan as to what we're going to do, let's go ahead and make ourselves some methods in our controller to do those things. So cruise over to our controller. All right, we've got our index, which is just going to be load our initial index. And I'm going to show you my index file really quickly. It's really pretty exciting. Super confusing, all right? All right, all we did is we have two divs in here, one with notes, one with new, and we load two Ajax, or two JavaScript files. The first one is the jQuery library itself. The second one is my own Ajax file, which was the one that we're going to work on. Alternatively, we could have written all this script in a script tag on this index page.
So you're pulling information from two sources.
Yep. I tend to like to have my JavaScript files as separate files rather than doing them on the same page, just because I like things to be kind of compact and where I can be like, oh, I know it's going to that particular file. That's just my own personal preference. Cool. All right. So let's go to our welcome page. Welcome controller. All right. So, and I want to just look at my browser really quickly because I wanted to get this notes index. Yeah. Yeah.
Question about your scripts on the Bower.
Yes.
Is that Bower pulling in the latest jQuery?
Yes. Yeah. You can specify which one you want to pull, but it.
You don't have to match that with some sort of archive or
Let me show you. So when you do Bower stuff, you can make a bower.json file using Bower init, and then if you save when you do your Bower install, it'll tell you and and store which version it is, and so you can look at the version if you do that. So it's 2.2.3.
So if you ever want to change the library, upgrade the version, you have to go into this file and change that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you also specify Bower differently.
Yes, you definitely can. Yeah. So if you just do Bower install, it'll try to get the latest thing that's compatible with all the other Bower components that's installed. And then you can also specify. You say like Bower installed jQuery's whatever version you want. All right. All right. So defs that we want to do, notes underscore index. That's going to be a self. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to go to the database. So we're going to go self.models. And we don't have this method yet, so it's going to be a little bit awkward, but that's okay. Welcome model. Index. And this we're going to be just call this thing notes. All right. So I think we all know what that's going to do. That's going to go to our notes, and it's going to go and get all the notes. And we'll talk about that in a second. And then after we do that, we're going to return self.loadView. And we're going to go to partials / index.html. And we're going to pass in notes equal notes. Yeah. All right, so basically all we're saying is we're going to create this new variable that we're going to send over to our view, and it's going to contain all of the notes that we get from our model. That's the plan at least.
You use the same name?
Yep. Yeah, because this is just declaring a variable that Jinja2 is going to gather,
Okay, gotcha.
and then this one is the variable that we've declared here. So those could be the same name, they could be different names. This one has to be something that we've declared before. This one we can call whatever the heck we want.
Oh, okay.
All right, so that's what that one's going to do. All right, def new self, pretty exciting. All this one's going to do is return self.loadView, and we're going to go to partials, and we're going to go to underscore new.html. All right, cool. Oh geez, bad mic. Okay. All right, def create self. What do we want to do with this thing? We want to go to our database, and we want to send over our request form to our database. Self.models.
we don't have to set any value to this because we aren't actually going and retrieving any information. Dot create, and we're going to pass in the request.form. All right, and then we can redirect to slash if we want to. We need to return something, or else we'll throw an error. So we're just return redirecting. We might throw in a pass there eventually, just so it doesn't break. But
So, every time I ended up using the redirect with my Ajax calls, I ended up refreshing the entire page.
so we'll get to that.
Okay.
I think. I hope.
Yeah, I actually noticed if refresh the request and if I redirect index, then it didn't refresh. But if I did, render index, then it didn't refresh. If I did redirect to slash, then it did refresh for me. That's what I observed.
Actually,
Yes.
you're right. This will redirect to the wrong place. Where we want it to redirect to is notes, because we want to go and get all the notes again if we want to. All right. Update. We want to do self.models, and we're getting an ID for our update. So we're going to pass in to our welcome model. We want to pass in update, request.form, and the ID. So we pass in those two things, return, redirect. And actually in this case we don't want to return anything, so we'll just put a pass there. See what happens. Def delete, self.id, self.models, welcome model, dot delete, request.form. Actually, we don't even pass in the request form because you don't actually passing any information except for the ID of which one you want to delete. And again, we're going to pass at the end of that. Questions about that? Does that make sense as to what we're going to try to do with those things? Okay. So then let's go over to our models. So we have all these methods that we want to do. Create, update, delete, and index. So we know which ones we're going to build over here in our models. So open up our welcome model. I'm going to get rid of all these comments because they drive me nuts because that green stuff makes me confused. It's like my kryptonite. All right, def index. Self. All right, so index is all it's going to do is query equals select star from notes. So that's going to get all the notes. Values, I always make a values array even if I'm not using it. In this case it's empty, so that dictionary is empty. And then we're going to do return self.db query underscore db query values. And this is just because I'm a creature of habit. That way everything looks exactly the same all the time. Yeah.
I saw in one of these assignments there was a DB dot query fetch one.
Mm-hmm.
Is that part of the template?
That is part of the SQL Alchemy ORM.
Is that the alternative to the limit one?
And so if you check out SQL Alchemy's documentation, and Shinji has looked at it a little bit and posted something on Slack, I think. But basically, one of the reasons that SQL Alchemy is pretty cool is that not only can it connect you to your database and escape data using that execute function, which is why we do the whole passing in value so we don't get SQL injection, it also has an ORM associated with it. And so there's a whole bunch of methods that are associated with SQL Alchemy that you can then access. I haven't played with SQL Alchemy a whole lot as in terms of ORMs, so I don't know them all. But the documentation on SQL Alchemy is quite good. So cool. All right. So def update self, and we're going to pass in an ID with which we're going to update, and a request form, or so data. So passing in data, an ID. So we're going to query equals update. Whoa. notes set, and we're going to set title equals title description equals description, and updated at equals now. Description. And then we need to say which one it's going to update, where ID equals colon ID. Just in case somebody figured out a way to pass in some sort of malicious code through our ID as well. Values equal this awesome dictionary. That dictionary is going to have a title, and it's going to have data bracket quote title. Surprising. It's going to have a description, which is going to be surprisingly data bracket description. It's going to have an ID, which is going to be ID. That makes sense? Cool. All right. So again, we don't need to return anything from this one. So all we need to do is run that query. Def delete. It's going to self in an ID. And query equals delete. That's going to be an awesome on the video. Delete from notes.
Where ID equals.
Dang it. I was just going to leave it delete from notes and let you guys laugh at me while I delete all my notes. All right. Cool.
Always need a where clause for delete.
Well, if you do just delete from notes, it'll kill them all. It's
Yeah,
pretty
I know,
fun.
but
Oh,
I
yeah.
said
Yeah.
you always need a where clause
Yeah.
for delete.
No, that's not going to work. That's going to work better.
It'll be better.
Extra colon. Colons everywhere! Alright. Is that a colonoscopy?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, that's on the video.
You got your question? Yeah.
How much does the model method, where should I filter the results? Should I look in control filter results or should I look in model? So for example, let's say you have a method up there called get no by ID, correct? Get no by ID, so you just want the attendance data on one node.
Uh-huh.
Right? So it comes back from the query an array of records, but there's only one in there.
Mhm.
So I could, on a return, say return query record 0, or I could return the whole result set. What
Yep.
is the
Um,
would actually
You can do either one. It's kind of up to you, but I tend to... I do both, actually. But I tend... If it's something that's going to be from a show method, which is, for me, is the get one, then I tend to like to pass the index at 0. So I pass just the element in the dictionary.
So it would be acceptable to make it implicit in maybe the name, or it's understood that when you run this, you are getting the entire result set. You, controller, have to deal with.
Yeah, so generally, you want to pass back to the controller what you want the controller to deal with, and that's it. So you don't want to force the controller to do extra logic. So have your models do the extra logic, like saying, "Oh, I want the first one," or "I want to return the first 5," or whatever, and do that on the model side on the return.
So this controllers go like a traffic cop.
Yeah.
They just tell you do this.
That's
They're not there to do.
exactly.
whatever.
Yep. And then the other thing with controllers and the way I set them up, and I think a lot of developers also set them up similarly, is they use the same naming structure. And so every route that says like users goes to, if it's a get method, it goes to a controller called users, and it runs a definition called index. And if you had a post to users, it would always run a create on users. So those are the RESTful routes. I'm using a slightly modified version of them because I didn't change my controller name. I'd still welcome model. But if I were to do it properly, I would change this model to notes and then be like, okay, index, all it does is goes and gets everything from the notes, even in my controller at this point. So like new, create, update, delete, and index are all RESTful routes that are conserved naming structures that I always use.
So they are the choices the controller can make.
So all the Wacom models in there supposedly notes then.
What's that?
To properly name all the Wacom model, where it should be notes. If you would have done it correctly.
Yeah, so I would have named this class note and my model's notes.
Platform said it's the other way around.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. All right. So that's looking reasonably good. Let's go ahead and make our next partial. So going to our views, partials, new file, underscore index.html. All right, in our index.html, let's look at our main HTML really quickly. So we have an H1 already there, so we have a title that's going to be conserved, and we have these two things, notes and new. All right, so basically we're going to populate whatever is going into this notes div is our plan for index.html. All right, so basically what we want to do is we want to say, hey, for every note in notes, right, so that's going to iterate through that dictionary that we've found. In that for loop. All right, so what do we want to do with all of our notes? Well, let's make an H2 tag, and let's put in note bracket title in there. Right underneath it, let's make a H6 tag, H5 tag, whatever. And let's just be a little bit creative and basically throw in a note bracket updated at. And let's use that filter custom date. And then let's make a text area. And let's give this thing value, or sorry, name equals title. And name equals description. And then have this thing filled up with note bracket description. Seem reasonable? Let's tweak this just slightly, and let's put all this into a form. That way we can update more easily. We can do it other ways, but this is going to be the lazy way to do it. All right, so the action in this case is going to be notes bracket update bracket what? Nope, bracket ID. Bracket quote ID. What's its method going to be? Awesome. All right, and then because this is going to be gathered by an input, we're going to make this thing into an input field.
Action. Always put it in hidden value.
Was that for which part?
The note, where you put the action up there with the note ID.
Oh,
I didn't realize that you could put it in that, and I just passed in a hidden.
gotcha.
Same kind of thing.
Yeah, so that'll be caught by that carets int
Yep.
ID. And we're going to have a value on this one, and the value in this case is going to be note title. And we can style it later. Rather than that h2 tag. Let's get rid of that thing. Let's get rid of this thing. I will leave that h5 there because that's fine. All right. How's that looking? Seem reasonable? All right.
Yeah. Oh, because you're gonna do this on keystrip, right?
Yep. Yeah. So we don't even need a submit button on this because the only time we're going to submit this thing is when we actually key up on this guy. All right. The other thing that we need for every note that we create, we're going to be able to need to have a second form related to it, and that's going to be the delete form. So that delete form is going to look very similar. It's going to be a method of post. Action, instead of being delete, it's going to, or update, it's going to be delete. It's going to have a submit button in it. And that submit button is going to say value equals delete.
It could have done this with a link, right?
Yeah, and then it would have been a get method rather than a post method. But since I have my routes, I think I set it as a delete, right? Yeah, so I set it as a delete. Or as a post, sorry. The reason to not have it as an A link potentially is that somebody could type in note/delete/7 onto your URL and it would delete that note if it existed. Whereas a post is a little bit harder to pass something in that way. Cool. All right. So let's go ahead and just make sure our code actually runs at all, which it may or may not do. Clear this thing. Clear that thing. Python manage py. All right, cool. It's running. Let's see what it looks like. It's going to be should be just a blank page with notes on it. Oh, I must have left some Ajax in there. Let's check. All right. All right. Well, I left some Ajax in there. Sorry, guys. So let's go ahead and take a look at what Ajax I actually left in there. Because that was where we were going anyways. So it's printing hello because as I told you, I pretty much anytime I'm running stuff, I print a hello because that's just the way I roll. Just to make sure that my Ajax is actually working. So all of my JavaScript and CSS and such are in my static file. In this case, I just moved all of my Bower components into this thing. Not the slickest way to do it, but whatever. That's what I did because I'm lazy. All right, and I have this Ajax file. All right, so there's this console log hello. Just a second. Let me make sure I'm actually looking at the right folder. All right. Okay, there we go. It just didn't have to refresh. That's what I was expecting it to happen. All right, so we have Hello World showing. I just hadn't refreshed my server, so all right. So there's notes showing Hello World. Now we need to write some Ajax. All right. So let's make ourselves a function up on top of this called index. What do you think this function index is going to do? What's a thought that it might do?
Isn't this way you should have the notes that shows up all the notes that you had?
Yeah, that seems like a reasonable place to do and run that route. So we're basically running it, because this is back in the JavaScript world. So we're going to basically do an Ajax call to run that route. So Ajax, so we can say call this Ajax function from jQuery. In that Ajax function, go to the URL of /notes_index, because that's the target for our notes index. We're going to go with a method of get. And when we get something back, what we're going to do is we're going to populate that ID'd div called notes. All right, so success takes a function, takes some data, which is what comes back from the database. Moves back from the controller, since we can't actually communicate directly with our database. All right. Cool. And so basically all we're going to do is say, hey, jQuery, go to notes, stick the HTML from what we got back in there.
You just need to move the parentheses.
Oh, yes. Need to add a parenthesis there, remove a parenthesis there. Cool. All right, that seems reasonable. So once our document is ready, we'll console log hello world, and then we'll run index. Whoa, too many words, too many letters. All right, excellent. So let's see what happens there. So now when we refresh this page, all right, notes index, not found. Let's make sure, I might just call it note index, so let's look at our route. Notes, notes. So, go to Ajax, so I call it notes index, but it's really just notes. All right. Again, go back and check and see if it's working. All right. Let's see what it's telling us. All right. All right. Let's take a look at what our response was from our server. All right. Table notes does not exist, really.
It's all the way at the bottom.
Ah.
Notes.
Table notes.
Oh, it's
Notes
not.
doesn't exist.
All right, well, let's go find out what's going on with SQL.
Did you make a collection?
I did make the connection, but there's notes. Ah, table 1.
Oops. Oopsie.
So, as you guys know, to edit it, just go over here, change this thing to notes, and then apply, apply, close. Cool. All right. Let's just close that server, restart the server. All right. Refresh this. All right, cool. We don't have any notes, so it makes sense that this thing comes back blank. So that's fine. So far, so good. All right, let's make another Ajax call. So this one is just going to be a one-time call, so it's only going to happen when we load the page. And that's the call that's going to basically load the add form. So $.Ajax. Again, I'm just going to copy all this because it's pretty much the same. And throw a semicolon on there too. All right, this one's going to go to notes new as our get method. It's going to be a get still. It's going to go back and get, instead of going to notes and filling up the data, it's going to fill up the data with the new div. So remember the new div in our index.html is right under our other div. So hopefully this will now fill it up. Cool, there it is. All right, we can try to submit something. And what's going to happen at this point is we haven't told Ajax or JavaScript to do anything with this, so this is going to be a full submit. So it's going to just be a normal submit, add a note. All right, so try to do it. Notice the page refreshed, my console cleared itself out. We just now have to check our welcome model, and it seems I didn't add a create method. So let's go ahead and check that out. But the main thing is that this was a full refresh at this point. All right, so welcome model, index, update, delete. Wow. Oops. Def create. Self. Data. And with that data, all we're going to do is basically run a query. Query equals what? Insert into notes. It's title and description are the two.
Oh.
Sorry. Okay, cool.
This is just the create. Okay.
Yeah. What else do we need? Cool. And then I'm just gonna copy these two things. I'll copy all the way through. Yeah, just those two things. And then we just stick colons in front of those two. Sound effects are extra, by the way. I expect tips after this.
Tips or get better sound effects. Oh,
Ooh. Edgar.
That's what we want to
All right. So the pieces that we need to put in here are going to be the title, and it's just going to be data bracket title, and then the description. It's going to be data bracket description. Seem reasonable? All right, and then we're, again, on these crates, we don't necessarily need to return anything because once we create something, we're just going to redirect and run the index method. Cool. All right. So let's go back over to our controller. So go over to Welcome Pi, go over to Create, and create redirects to notes, assuming we get something back. Let's go ahead and give that a shot. So refresh here. All right. And there's our new note. But notice that we've lost our ability to create a new form. And that's because this was a complete page reload. And so we're now sitting at notes. We've changed addresses at this point. Refresh the page. And so it's only loading what we loaded from that partial view. Because remember, notes just loads that partial view. All right, so now we have to go and play around with that. So we have this awesome create method. It's doing what we expect it to do, but it's reloading the page. We're going to prevent that next. All right, so we're going to go into our Ajax JavaScript. And we're just going to say, hey, when you submit a form, and that's going to be document, so any form on this thing, on the method that we're going to use, submit, what we're submitting, a form, and we're going to run a function. That function takes an optional parameter, which is the event that generates the function, or generates the call. It's often called E or event. And E, prevent default, minimizes the chance that it's going to do what it would normally do. Basically, we're saying, hey, don't do your default operation. Do what I tell you to do. With forms, whenever you submit a form, also, form submissions cause an automatic page reload. So to just cover both bases, just return false as well. All right. Now,
Prevent default won't stop the reload?
it should, but I've seen some people make mistakes.
There's
Yeah.
something I was reading on this that said not to do the return. I mean, return false will
It'll
do
stop.
what you said, but
It'll also stop propagation of the event.
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why you want to make sure if you do end up putting return false, it has to be the last thing you do.
Well,
Yeah.
that's just because
It's a return. Yeah.
It's a return. But you just want to be explicit about what you want to stop. Do
Yeah.
you want to stop the default action, or do you want to stop this event from actually bubbling up to other events that you may be listening on in other elements?
Yeah.
So what do you mean bubbling up? Reoccurring?
Like if I click on a small div that's inside a big div, do I want, and I'm listening for clicks on both divs, if the small one is clicked on, do I want to stop that event from propagating to the big div that I'm listening on?
So it's like infecting.
Return false will stop both.
Yep. Right. So at this point, all we're doing is creating new things, and that's what's going to this notes thing. So let's just start with this one. With every form that we ever create is going to go to notes. It's going to go as a post. And we're going to fix this in a second, but this is what we're going to do right now. Data equals $, this dot serialize. So this is one of the things that you haven't seen before. All this says is turn the data into a form or a string that many backends can read, including PHP and Python. If you were sending this to a mean backend, you wouldn't have to do it this way, because you can just send the object directly. All right, and then when you get stuff back, do some cool stuff. All right. What we want to do when we get stuff back from this one is we want to actually go and run our notes and fill it back up. Because we create something new, and then we go and populate the notes div. Does that look right to everybody? Looks okay to me, I think. So let's give it a shot. So go to home. All right, so there's our one note. Let's try and add something. Bananas, they taste delicious and produce ethylene, which helps fruit around them ripen. Cool. All right, so still have something going on with our page refreshing. Save that. Let's turn our server on and off quickly. So anything that we change in our JavaScript won't get picked up by our server, because our server on those different saves don't get updated. So go back to here. All right. Another note. Blah, blah, blah. Add it up. Still not quite behaving the way we want it to. All right.
So what is it that you're expecting to happen?
It's still refreshing the page. Notice this console log's still present or gone.
And you're seeing notes up when
Yeah.
when you're posting.
Yeah, when we're adding a note.
Okay.
So let's just take a look at what's going on. All right.
What's happening in your control?
It wouldn't be on the server side.
Shouldn't be here, but
And the fact that you still have your action in the HTML being returned shouldn't matter.
Nope.
Because you're preventing default.
Yep. Let's just kill this thing off and see if that's causing part of it. Unexpected token return. Ajax 33. That's probably what it was. Is there something wrong with my Ajax call? All right, so Ajax 33. Ah, notice how this return is sitting inside my Ajax call? All right. Okay, 31. This looks fine. That looks okay.
That
This needs...
We can
No,
get
that
rid
one
of
doesn't need that.
the on line 35. I don't think we need the final.
We do need that though, right?
Yeah.
Because that closes my Ajax. I was just putting this parentheses right after there. This should close my function. Yep. All right. All right. So there's that. Whee! Maybe this will work.
Probably not.
Cool. All right. At least it's going somewhere. So it's hitting notes now.
Add back the notes
Yep, perfect. Oh, we have to. Oh, that should work. Cancel. And then there we go. All right, awesome. Now it's starting to work. Another note.
Why is it still showing in here?
What's that?
Why is it still showing in post here?
Oh, I haven't. I was looking at that earlier, and I'm not sure why it's pulling this thing in a strange way. But yeah, we can play around with it and see. Let's ignore it for now, if that's okay, and then I'll let you guys know later today.
Is it all leftover or is it brings it every time?
What's that?
Is that that error, is it leftover earlier when you had the?
I don't think so, but we can check and see. It's definitely possible. Is the error unique? Yeah.
So it's just a leftover.
Yeah. All right, so there's that guy. All right, so that form was fine and dandy, but it wasn't very extensible, right? So now every form does exactly this, and we don't really want that. What we want to do is say, hey, let's write as little code as we possibly can because we're lazy, and basically have forms do what we tell them to do. So in this case, let's, instead of having the URL being hard-coded, let's make our URL soft-coded and dynamic. This dot attribute action method. Okay. This dot attribute method. All right, so now any form will basically look at its action and its method and decide what it's going to do based on those two things. All right, let's go to our welcome.py page, and all of them are going to fill whatever data comes back and make this HTML fill in properly. All right, so let's go to our new HTML. All right, so that's looking fine. Our partial index, we have these deletes, so hopefully those will work correctly. But remember, our delete method isn't returning anything. So on our welcome.py, right, so delete is just a pass right now, and update is also a pass right now. So let's see what happens when we try to delete something. So refresh this. I'm going to try to delete this one. Ah, there's an error. Ah, there's another error. Ah, there's another error. Ah, there's another error, and there's another error. There's another error. But we did delete them. So the delete's working fine. It's just that the page wasn't refreshing and we weren't updating that note because that function wasn't passing anything back to update the HTML with. All right, so in order to get it to properly behave, let's just do that. So now when we delete something, it'll delete.
So it's actually clear the other notes out.
Yep. Well, it depends on how many. It just deletes the one that you were targeting. So
you have to do that with the update.
all right. So if I delete this top note, so now this note 2 is now the top note.
And then it does not refresh the whole page?
That did not refresh the whole page because we still have this new. So just refresh that div. Cool. So we'd have to do the same thing with update. So update's a little bit weirder. Let's see what time it is before I. Yeah, let's stop there and play with update later. If that's okay.